Why some millionaires never went to college. Imagine two teenagers. One spends 4 years in college. He attends lectures and takes exams, graduates with a degree, and starts applying for jobs. The other drops out. No degree, no prestigious university, no guaranteed career path, yet 20 years later, the second person is worth millions. How? Did he simply get lucky? Was college a waste of time? Or is there something about wealth creation that traditional education rarely teaches? Consider people like Bill Gates, who left Harvard before graduating, or Mark Zuckerberg, who also left Harvard to build Facebook. Then there is Richard Branson, who struggled academically and left school at 16. These stories are famous, but here's the important part. They are not proof that college doesn't matter. In fact, millions of wealthy people have college degrees. The real lesson is much more interesting. Some millionaires discovered a different path to the same destination. They learned to create value. They learned to sell. They learned to take calculated risks. And eventually, they stopped trading only their time for money. Because the biggest difference between earning money and building wealth is what happens after the money arrives. And that's where the story gets interesting. Level 1, the myth of the degree. For generations, the formula seemed simple. Go to school, get good grades, go to college, get a stable job, work for decades, retire comfortably, and there is good reason this formula became popular. Education can dramatically increase earning potential. Doctors need medical education. Engineers need technical training. Lawyers need legal education. Accountants need specialized knowledge. A degree can open doors. It can signal competence. It can provide networks. And for many careers, it is absolutely worth it. So why do some millionaires never go? Because a degree is ultimately a tool, not the destination. Imagine someone wants to build a house. A university degree might give them a powerful set of tools. But owning tools doesn't automatically create a house. Someone still has to know what to build, where to build it, who needs it, and how to make money from it. This is where entrepreneurship changes the equation. A traditional career often asks, what skills can you sell to an employer? Entrepreneurship asks, what problem can you solve for thousands or millions of people? That difference is enormous. An employee might earn $70,000 a year, but an entrepreneur who creates a company serving 100,000 customers isn't limited by one salary. The business itself can become an asset, and assets can grow. That's the first secret. Wealth is often created by ownership, not simply income. Level 2, they learned outside the classroom. Here's something surprising. Many successful entrepreneurs who didn't attend college didn't stop learning. They simply changed where they learned. Instead of classrooms, they studied customers. Instead of textbooks, they studied competitors. Instead of exams, they faced the market. And the market gives brutally honest feedback. If customers don't like your product, they don't buy it. If your pricing is wrong, you lose money. If your business doesn't solve a real problem, it disappears. That feedback can become an incredibly powerful teacher. Take Richard Branson. He left school at 16, but he didn't stop learning. He built businesses. He negotiated deals. He studied branding. He learned marketing. He entered industries he knew little about and surrounded himself with people who knew more. That last part matters. Because one of the biggest misconceptions about successful dropouts is that they succeeded because they knew everything. Usually, they didn't. They became good at finding people who did. That's a completely different skill. A founder doesn't need to be the best accountant, the best programmer, the best lawyer, or the best marketer. They need to understand enough to make decisions and build a team capable of executing them. This creates a powerful form of leverage. You don't have to personally possess every skill if you can organize the skills of others, and that's something traditional education doesn't always emphasize. Level 3, they understood leverage. Now we reach the real secret. Why can one person earn $100,000 a year, while another can build a company worth $100 million? The answer is leverage. There are several forms of it: capital, technology, people, media, and intellectual property. Consider software. A programmer might spend months building an application. Once it's finished, that same software can potentially serve thousands or millions of customers. The creator doesn't have to personally recreate the product for every customer. That's leverage. Or consider media. A YouTube video can take hours to produce, but after publication, it can reach people while the creator sleeps. That's leverage. A book works similarly. A patent, a digital course, a software platform, a brand, a franchise. These assets can separate income from individual hours worked, and this is one reason some people without traditional degrees become wealthy. They aren't necessarily working less. In the beginning, they may work far more. The difference is what they're building while they work. Someone earning a salary is often building professional experience. An entrepreneur might be building a customer base, a brand, a distribution network, a product, a company, or an asset portfolio. And if those assets become valuable, their wealth can accelerate. This is why a person making $200,000 a year can still struggle to become wealthy. Meanwhile, someone making less income temporarily, but owning a rapidly growing business, could eventually become far richer. Income pays the bills. Ownership builds the balance sheet. Level 4, the hidden advantage, speed. But there's another reason, and it's uncomfortable. Some people who don't follow the traditional education to career path can move faster. Not always, but sometimes. Imagine a 19-year-old who believes he has discovered a business opportunity. He doesn't need to wait 4 years to graduate. He can start tomorrow. He can launch a website, talk to customers, test an idea, fail, change the product, try again, and repeat. That speed creates something incredibly valuable: feedback. The entrepreneur isn't trying to avoid failure. He's trying to make failure inexpensive. Instead of spending 5 years developing an idea, he might test it in 5 weeks. Instead of investing $100,000 immediately, he might start with $1,000. Instead of asking, "Will this work?" he asks, "How cheaply can I find out?" That's a completely different mindset, and it resembles how many successful investors think. They don't try to predict the future perfectly. They manage risk. They diversify. They look for asymmetric opportunities. Limited downside. Large potential upside. This doesn't mean dropping out is a strategy. It isn't. For every famous dropout, there are countless people who left school and never built successful businesses. You simply don't hear their stories. That's called survivorship bias. The winners become famous. The failures disappear from the headlines. And this is where the millionaire story becomes more complicated. Level 5. The real secret isn't dropping out. Here's the biggest reveal. The wealthy people who never went to college didn't become millionaires because they skipped college. They became wealthy because they developed behaviors that helped them create and retain wealth. And those behaviors can be learned by someone with a degree or without one. They understand opportunity. They understand sales. They understand risk. They understand ownership. And perhaps, most importantly, they understand compounding. Imagine someone builds a business that produces $100,000 in annual profit. They could spend it. New car, luxury apartment, expensive vacations, or they could reinvest it. Hire employees, expand distribution, buy equipment, purchase another business, invest in stocks, acquire real estate. Now the money begins producing more money. Then that money produces more and more. This is where wealth starts behaving differently from wages. A salary usually grows incrementally. Assets can grow exponentially. That's why the first million can be incredibly difficult, but the second million can sometimes arrive much faster. The machine has already been built. The network exists. The capital exists. The experience exists. The reputation exists. The knowledge exists. And compounding begins working on all of them. But there is another critical lesson. Keeping wealth is different from creating it. Someone can build a successful business, then lose everything through reckless spending. They can become rich, then become poor. So the financially successful person eventually has to transition from builder to owner to investor. That progression is powerful. First, you learn how to earn. Then, you learn how to build. Then, you learn how to preserve. And finally, you learn how to make capital work without your constant involvement. That's the real wealth journey. Conclusion. The lesson college can't teach you. So, why did some millionaires never go to college? Because there isn't only one path to wealth. Some built companies, some mastered sales, some created products, some invested early, some inherited capital and expanded it. Some simply found an opportunity at the right time and executed exceptionally well. But here's what you shouldn't take away from their stories. Don't conclude, college is useless. And don't conclude, dropout equals entrepreneur. Those are simplistic conclusions. The deeper lesson is this: credentials and wealth are not the same thing. A degree can increase your earning power, but earning power isn't automatically wealth. Wealth comes from what you do with that earning power. Can you save? Can you invest? Can you acquire assets? Can you create value? Can you build something that works without every dollar depending on another hour of your time? Can you turn knowledge into leverage? Can you survive failure? Can you delay gratification? Can you recognize opportunities? And perhaps most importantly, can you become an owner? Because the ultimate goal isn't simply to make more money. It's to build a system where your money, your skills, your assets, and your decisions continue working long after the original effort is finished. That's why some millionaires never went to college. Not because education doesn't matter, but because wealth has never required a single approved route. The world rewards value. It rewards ownership. It rewards leverage. And sometimes, the person sitting outside the classroom is learning something the classroom was never designed to teach. The question isn't whether you have a degree. The question is, What are you building with what you know?